Hey everyone, it's Realtor Josh Kepke here with McDonald Realty and Vancouver Real Estate today. We're looking back at the month of January 2020 to see what's really going on in the real estate market and how things are going. So I'm going to start with sharing some anecdotes from the marketplace and then really get into the nuts and bolts of what's going on in terms of statistics in the economy and really more local market activity, especially for each category, be it a house or a condo and so forth. So something to know is that the spring market has definitely arrived. I challenge you to go into an open house this weekend anywhere across Vancouver, East Van, North Van, and see one that's not busy. It's smoking busy in there. We're seeing multiple offers commonplace on anything that even resembles affordability. Recently I sold a condo in Kits with 6 offers on it. We had over 100 people through in the week that we marketed that home, and there was a bunch of people sitting on the sidelines too. So this is very common right now. One realtor in my office had 25 offers on her condo that was for sale just this last week. Similar stories happening with the houses that are in more affordable price points. Still looking at a lot of supply. If you're over $2 million though, that's still a lot of months of inventory on the market. So what should you expect? The spring market's here. The prices and values are going to be seen changing soon. But funny enough, buyers are still scared of competing. As I mentioned, we had 6 offers on that condo I was selling in Kits, and maybe another 6 people who didn't want to compete. So when the market's contracting, people say, I don't want to, maybe the prices will come down more, but then the market heats up and no, I don't want to compete. So it's really funny how that works in the buyer psychology. Let me give you another quick example of a house that was for sale on the west side. This was on Carnarvon Street. They had 12 offers on that house. 5 of those offers were subject free, and it ended up selling for $500,000 over the asking price. We had a leasehold condo in False Creek, had 100 guests through in the first hour. So just some ideas on what's happening out there to give you a sense of where we're at in the market. Spring's here. You can see it out the window from my office here in Kerrisdale as well. Mortgage rates. Usually I like to talk about mortgages in the first week of the month, but I did have a conversation with a mortgage broker in my office on Monday, and I think you can look to some more rate decreases in the spring, particularly some spring rate specials. So the rates will be staying low. So keep that in mind. Now let's get into the meat and potatoes of what's been going on here. Some opening thoughts. Really do not underestimate the power of 80 basis points, because that's how much we've seen the rates the basis points drop on the mortgages. Now this is in the midst of weakening economic growth, scares of this dreaded coronavirus, right? That slowed a lot of the economic activities, and it sent the bond yields tumbling. Residential mortgage credit growth right now is on fire. We're seeing 6.72% on a 3-month annualized basis. Now that's actually faster than before the mortgage stress test came on. So don't underestimate the power of mortgages. People are piling on more debt now, especially because really, you'll see even the new listings are chronically low in the marketplace. And why is that? Well, it's because interest rates are so low that people can't actually make a lot of money putting anything in the bank. There's just so much money out there in the system, so people are hoarding real estate and holding on to that as somewhere to hold their assets. There's no liquidity crunch going on right now. People don't have to sell. And there's still a strong emotional bias that the good times in real estate will continue because it's been so good for so long, especially here in Vancouver. Now, as I'm saying, inventory remains really tight, especially in the entry levels, be it for condos or houses. And this is a segment of the market that's been underserved by the construction boom we saw over the last while, not in particularly recent years too, but in the years prior we did see a boom, and they didn't create a lot of affordable products in that. Everything was focused more on the luxurious condos and such for international markets, which are not here right now. That's why you're seeing still very slow in the higher end. So what's going on with the detached houses? Let's get into that. We're seeing the sales up right now, but we're still below the 10-year average. So that's something to consider. It's an affordability problem, right? The locals here in Vancouver can't afford to get into a lot of the houses here, right? It's the new listings are weak. People are hoarding real estate, as I said, and there's an abundance of supply in the market. And there's an abundance of supply in the luxury market, very tight in the entry level, as mentioned. But if you go over 2 million, 20 months of inventory for detached homes above $2 million here. If you go down to houses priced below 1.5 million, there's only 4.8 months of inventory. So 20 and 4.8 just shows you the tale of two markets that has been a consistent thing. As mentioned, what's going on here is that foreign bid exited the market in 2016. It exited the market with the foreign buyer tax, essentially, and it never has really returned. And now there's a void of qualified buyers, right? So few of locals can actually qualify to afford these homes on the salaries they make in Vancouver. Now, we have seen some minor increases in prices for the detached homes in that affordable range, because that's still the dream. Everyone wants to get into a house. And if you got a suite, wow, you've got a hot commodity there, especially in Vancouver on the east side. Officially, though, you'll see a decline in the MLS benchmark price of 1.7% for the month of January. But that's a lagging indicator. And really, we've seen that the sales really start to increase, and that percentage of decrease month over month gets smaller. I believe it was up more around 6 a few months back, and now we're down to 1.7. Would expect it to go into the positive territory for March, so that's something to watch for. Like I keep telling you, we are in a local end user market right now, and it's very sensitive to prices, and especially sensitive to money being made available through lower mortgage rates. But there's certainly luxury product oversupplied, but certainly a demand for affordable single-family houses. Condo market. Sales are increasing, new listings are decreasing. This is law of supply and demand. Prices are going to start to come up. So if you're on the fence, best to get in before the market gets away from you. And really interesting stuff we're seeing in the condo market, I'm sure you've seen it in the news, is what's happening with the insurance on condo buildings. And now that is something I've never seen before, and lots of people haven't seen before. It's really new, being that it's no longer profitable for a lot of these insurance companies to insure strata buildings, just because of climate change crises like fires in Australia or California, and I think we had like tornado out in the Ottawa or Quebec or something in Canada. So these insurance companies are all underwritten by a few major financiers, and so they're paying out those claims, and the insurance companies still need to make a profit, right? So now they're raising rates on all these strata buildings, and they can't even make their own money through investing in the bond market, which is another way they go to earn money to pay out these claims, because the interest rates are chronically low across all financial markets. So, I'm not an insurance expert, but from what I understand, the strata building insurance world is in shambles, and some buildings are not even getting insured, which is horrifying, and then you can't get mortgages lent on them. So that's something to watch for how it affects the condo market. I think we're still in the early days of seeing how that impacts really the real estate market, because it's going to limit who can buy them unless you're buying them cash, which very few people do if they're local end users. So just something interesting to watch and be mindful of. We did see condo sales jump back to like the month-over-month real estate stats here. They jumped 46% over last year. Again, last year was really, really slow in real estate. A lot of people talking to me about their assessed values. Now remember, those were set in July. All the market activity in 2019 happened in the second half of the year, or the vast majority of it. It was a catch-up game, so don't pay attention to your assessed value. It's very insignificant right now. But the demand in the condo market looks overall quite healthy right now. So it's a healthy market. The big story is the persistent weakness in new listings, right? My theory here is that it's the low and the negative interest rates. I'm getting back to what's going on here. There's no liquidity crunch forcing people to sell, so they're hoarding as much real estate as they can. Average price per square foot on condos, not the MLS benchmark price, but the average price per square foot is up 2.1%. So as I said, watch for the benchmark price to push higher on a year-over-year basis in March. I think that's basically about all I have for you this month. Maybe it'd be nice to talk a little bit about what's happening in the pre-sale market for new developments. With the coronavirus, again, we saw very slow Chinese New Year business because all of the world essentially locked down because of this virus outbreak. And that's usually a time of year where developers like to kind of blow out their inventory and offer some incentives, but lots of products still available in lots of different buildings. Like, just to name a few here, 1335 Howe by Ani. They've got a total of 136 units, and the Altus Group is reporting that only 49 of those are sold. Monument, which is a EPTA Properties building in Kitsilano, I mean, they've gone through 2 different pre-sale companies now trying to sell that thing, and out of the 22 units there in Kitsilano, brand new, where there's no new product ever, only 13 of those are sold. What else could we look at here? You know, the pre-sale market is very much shifted from the boom years of 2015, 16, or even 2014. Another problem here for watching with these pre-sale condos is it's really hard for them to reduce the prices too much because the construction costs in Vancouver are the highest in the country. Like, it costs an insanely high amount of money to build properties here in hard costs, the actual materials, and the soft costs, which is, you know, the expenses piled on by governments and so forth. You know, like for a condo building up to 6 stories, we're looking at $220 to $325 for hard costs. You make that a 40-story condo tower, now we're $260 to $350 per square foot. So it's just very interesting stuff to see what's going on in the pre-sale market and where we might end up. I think that's about it for me, though. I gave you a bit of bonus stuff on the pre-sale market this week. And if you have any questions, though, I got lots of stuff to talk about with Vancouver Real Estate today. There's always something new happening. That's why I love this business. It's never boring. It's always changing, and really, who you work with matters in this market, because this is like Vancouver real estate is not like any other animal out there. And while your neighbors and you know, your cousins might have opinions on what they've heard in the news, we really, realtors, full-time realtors, have a much stronger grasp of what's going on before it hits all those news sources, because we're who they come to get those stories. So if you want to know what's going on in your specific neighborhood, or the price band, or the kind of home you live in, reach out to me. It's Josh Kepke, Vancouver Real Estate Today. You can call me, 604-313-9805. You can email me, hello@vancouverrealestatetoday.ca. You can follow me on Instagram. Got to get more active on that always, at Josh Kepke. And that's it for this week. Thanks for watching. And I hope you enjoy the spring weather. Get out there and look at some open houses. Each week we do put out the open house weekend report. Bye for now.